Hello and welcome. This is Peter Palmiotti, and this is Studio Synergy, episode 54. Hello.
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 And I'm joined by John. Hey, John. It's been a
Hey,
while.
Pete. Yeah, been a long while.
So, for those that don't remember you, g-
Uh,
give us your brief history.
well, I'm John Grzeski. I am probably better known on the inner tubes as Zombrai. And I used to do a webcomic called Everyday Abnormal that I'm hoping to get started here again fairly soon. Um, but, I make art on the interwebs. That's pretty much what I do.
Well, I didn't know your plans to return to your webcomic. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't have real set plans as yet. I have the script for the next story arc, but I don't have because I've got a day job and everything. I don't have a timetable for when that's actually going to get started again.
Mhm.
I would like to get an artist for it just because you know draw because that's going to be what is it, like 66, 68 pages, something like that, and that's a hell of a time commitment, and I would like to um, get somebody to help with that. Um, but that requires money, and that's not something that I have. So I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to make it work because I do believe in the story, and um, I do think it's worth telling. I just don't have necessarily the resources to do it right now. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. Well, what? Where does it stand right now? You got all your previous chapters published,
All
or
the previous ones are available to read on everydayabnormal.thecomicseries.com.
right?
Um, I had some books, but I had to break into my car.
Oh
So
no.
so all of the printed comics that I had uh, got taken out of there. So I don't actually have anything in print right now, um, which is it's whatever. It's a thing.
Wow, I never heard of that. Like,
Well,
who would steal somebody's poor independent comic?
well, um, somebody was going around the parking lot at my day job and just checking cars, and that was the one day that my car accidentally got left unlocked. Like, I'm usually
Mm,
very meticulous about it, and that just happened to be the one day that I missed it. And they took my convention suitcase, the suitcase with all of my prints and all my comics and basically everything that I take to cons when I table, and um, I think it was just looked like the only thing of value. Joke was, nobody knows what that comic is, so there's gonna be no resale value on it. So they got a suitcase, I guess. But
you-
that was a pretty rough day for me.
oh, that sucks.
Yeah,
You ever check eBay? Maybe it'll show up there.
I did not check eBay, but
You track them down.
um, but a lot of that early stuff is very amateurish. You can very much tell I was learning the ropes about a lot of stuff. So, you know, um, I'm not as sad. Part of the, when I restart, I want to make the new set. It continues the story from the old one. Is written in a way that people who have never read Everyday Abnormal can appreciate. Um, just because I don't necessarily want them going back and reading all that stuff. Not that
So
it's bad. It's just very, it's not how I would do it now.
yeah, so we'll start like early on, but not the first chapter or a couple of chapters or whatever it was.
It continues off where it was going to continue anyway. It's just written, with a reader who's never even heard of Everyday Abnormal in mind.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm angling for. Like, I want both old readers to, who did enjoy and did appreciate the original series to be able to pick it up and go, hey, it's a continuation of the story, and then have new readers who've never heard of it be able to pick up and go exactly what I'm going for. So there's there's more establishing stuff than I might have normally had, or if I just continued from where I left off originally. But I'm talking a lot about a thing I don't actually know when is going to get printed or posted.
Yeah, no, and I'm curious. It's like I've read a lot of it. I stopped at some point because I was overly busy, whatever.
Sure.
But knowing that it's coming back at some point, I'll go back and finish reading what I didn't already.
But I guess the question then is, what have you been up to?
Oh, nothing. I'm good. No.
I'm just at home staring at a wall.
Playing with my cats, Well, it's like I mean, lately I've been struggling. It's like things were heating up, and then I hit a whole lot of this is a recap for maybe a lot of people who haven't heard previously, but like my computer went down, my cell phone broke, like everything across the board. I started having problems with a lot of the programs I was using, and I'm sort of trying to keep up at this point with my YouTubing, just doing it in any way I can at the moment, which is like, it's kind of frustrating. Like, this is like, I don't want to do it this way. It's like the image is upside down. It's not as well lit or whatever. But it's like, this is just for the meanwhile. I'm working on Blood Rights, which is a comic I'm doing with Trevor Sanders and Rodney Jacobson. Trevor is writing it. Rodney's penciling it. Well, actually, Trevor will also be coloring it. I'll be inking it and co-writing it. And we're all sort of co-creating it. And that will be one of the first ongoing books out through Has Comics, which is my brand. But also I'm working on Retro, which is my baby. And that is penciled by Rich Fuchsia, who unfortunately is taking a turn in his career. So he's only doing issue 1. Beyond that, I'm still undecided who I'm going to go with. I really want to do it myself. I'm not up to snuff right now, but we'll see. We'll see, because things may go really well next year for me. I've kind of possibly secured enough work that I got next year covered.
Nice.
Yeah. So a lot of things have to happen now. It's like, I'm living in a small, crappy apartment, and I want to definitely upgrade that, possibly, because I need a separate studio space. This is kind of just the living room in a place that's has no doors. I did put up a screen door, but that's, only so effective.
Right.
Hey, Mario. Oh, no problem. If you can make it, that would be awesome. If not, then, I'll do these upcoming. I'm looking at the chat. I actually figured out how to do that. so that my computer doesn't crash. Um,
Victory.
victory, small victories. Um, so yeah, we'll see how things pan out. I did a like I inked a chapter of a I don't even know what it was, like a one and done story, maybe like a graphic novel length story that had different artists do different chapters, and I inked one of the chapters. It's for a guy named Phil Lee McCall. I'm going to be meeting up with him end of November, the weekend after Thanksgiving, at Louisville SuperCon, and sign a bunch of books. He collected it all in one book. The character is Grace Flynn. She's a pirate on the sea, like Pirates of the Caribbean, but yeah, it's just her and her adventures. Um, and yeah, so I'll possibly be working with him. Um, we got something going on, but we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
But
Everyone
I have,
watches this, like, that's cryptic.
yeah. Um, I'm going to be inking a short story for a graphic novel, Detective Dead, that was already talked about online. So that's what is it called? Bigfoot Bill versus Detective Dead. It will be a short story in the Detective Dead graphic novel. Um, and I actually sent Critias the link. We'll see if he can make it out. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Um, and yeah, I might be doing something for my friend Randy Bishop, who shout out to Randy. He's at London Con this weekend. The bastard. Um,
How
uh,
dare he?
yeah, globe trotting Randy.
So inconsiderate of him.
Where's my invite? Um, he does a book called Hawk of New York, and it's sort of like an Indian, like a Cherokee, I believe, maybe. Um, Sort of vigilante kind of guy, rides around on a motorcycle and beats up gang members on like motorcycle gangs. Um, it's a fun book. And I sort of helped him out with issue 6. I might be doing inks for him to get that issue done. We'll see. That's up in the air, but yeah, go check out his book. Um, what else? Well, I can't really maneuver around. There's people know I'm part of the 100s, and there's an artist in the group, Paula, Val something or another. I forget her last name. Um, she's very good at what she does. She's just started a YouTube channel. Um, and she just posted a video of the last 2 years of her making comics, and a lot of it is simple and straightforward. It is like in her spare time, just her doodling around and making comics. But a lot of it is very intricate and using like just like every sort of comic trick in the book. And some of it's really weird. Um, it kind of reminds me of a little Will Eisner, a little Paul Pope, a little you know Alex Toth. Just I mean, like if you really look at it, you can see. I don't know if it's influences or just pure luck or or what. But it's really interesting stuff. Maybe if I remember, I'll post a link in the description later.
I feel like now you have to, because
Yeah,
I want to see this channel and this artist.
yeah. And yeah, it's like I'm talking it up, but it's like, you know, if you watch the video long enough, and you'll see some pretty amazing stuff amongst a bunch of just bland pages. You know, I don't want to I don't want to crucify her work, but it's like, you know, she seemed just to consistently make comment pages, because she had like, I don't even know, like at least eight different stacks of comic pages that
Wow.
she was flipping through. Um, so it was like, you know, I guess she made it regardless, and just for the joy of it. Um, and I don't even know the details of, you know, if I don't think she's published. Um, and I don't know what she plans to do. She sort of like posts a lot, but without a lot of commentary. So I'm not exactly sure, but I'll be looking further into what she's up to.
Some people do just do it for the love. I don't know what that's like, but you know, that's. I wish I could be one of those people.
You shall be one of those people.
No, I got bills to pay, man. Like I love doing this, but I'm very lucky that I've been getting a lot of commission work and everything, because otherwise I don't know. I could be in some trouble, right?
Yeah. That's kind of where I am. It's like, you know, things are definitely looking up, because I've been pushing my ass to talk with a lot more people, and make things happen. And like I said, you know, it looks like I've secured a good amount of work. Um, Plus, on top of, you know, what I plan to do with my company and my brand and my books. Um, so, you know, I'm not going to lack for work. It's just a matter of making it work better financially going forward. Because, you know, I'm looking to really, like, not even double or triple, but like just like far beyond what I make currently, and um, just do a heck of a lot better, which, you know, I've always known is possible. I've never really uh, set up my online presence correctly. It's kind of like I slapped it together. Um, you know, it's like I know kind of the ins and outs of what to do. And, you know, it's like, yeah, I have a store, but I don't even look at it nowadays. And I haven't posted anything to it for quite some time. And I don't even know if it functions at this point. um, you know, and I have an eBay where I could, you know, it's like I have a lot of artwork I could be selling, but I haven't, you know, worked on that. I haven't used that in quite some time, and I might have to recalibrate it, whatever you call it, like, because I have a new bank account than what I used when I was using it. But, you know, it's like that's all stuff I'll be working on.
Yeah, I probably need some maintenance by this point.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really let things go online, because everything changes yearly at least.
Well, I think there's some wiggle room. I know there are some pretty successful artists that don't really have an online presence, but yeah, a lot of us don't have that luxury. Like, um, I know that my online presence isn't great, but basically all of my commission work comes from online.
Yeah.
I wish that this was my only job, so that I could actually spend time making my online presence more robust, more engaged. Having a day job is the worst.
Yeah, I've been there. It takes a lot of time and really like I guess I was, when I first moved to Kentucky, I was the most effective as far as having a day job and doing work on the side. But not that it led to anything. I mean, I was doing inks on a friend's book and worked my schedule out to where, I was working at Mickey D's out in Bardstown, which was the original town I moved into. Because a friend of my family, a friend and his family were living there, and I stayed with them for a little bit until I got my own place. Once I got my own place, I got a day job just to sort of uh, pay for that, set it up, and be good. Um, and yeah, I worked like the early shift, so I would be home mid-afternoon. I would come home and crash, and then I would work into the evening, past midnight, and for an hour or two, and then wake up early the next day, and so on and so on.
Brutal.
It,
I mean, I've never had a schedule where it's quite, where I've had to put that many extra hours in, but I've had a 40-hour a week job to pay my bills pretty much my entire adult life. So, and that's just the struggle, is like finding time and the capability to do the art and do the projects you want to do uh, while you're, working for the man the rest of the time.
yeah. Well, it's tough, but there's a lot more sort of things set up now where it's actually easier. Like a friend of mine was going on, like he made a comic recently, and he was working for Marvel back in the '90s, much like me, and he was like, "Oh, I wish I would have." you know, got into making comics back then. But I think, there's a lot more ease nowadays with not only getting the word out about your comic, but even, I mean, you could set up a store and sell it online. You can sell it at various digital outlets online. You can get the word out online. You can, like becoming a YouTuber or just whatever site you're on, you can build a good following.
Yeah, you're really no longer tied to having to go through a publisher, especially for comics. It's interesting how it's developed, because it really feels like Marvel and DC in the comics world are no longer the end step in your career. Like, that used to be the thing. You get to Marvel and DC and you made it, and that's as high as you're going to get in the industry. And now I don't think that actually applies anymore. They almost feel like a stepping stone for, like, an artist getting a high profile gig at Marvel or DC almost feels like that's the stepping stone for their for an artist's individual work in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So I mean, because like I thought about doing independence back then, and really like I had a friend who was doing his book, Dan Cooney doing Valentine, and I almost it's like I have a creation, Bright Eyes. I did an ad in the back of one of his issues, but that's about all I did. It was like I don't know. It wasn't my best work, and it was like I was a little scared. I don't know. So I stepped back from the idea of doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like now it's like, you can post it as a webcomic and sort of get audience reaction and feedback, and um, there, you could just reach out to creators and say, I don't know how to do this, and people jump at you and help you. It's a whole different atmosphere.
Yeah, I don't. It has to be a huge. I don't want to say like culture shock because it's not like it just happened overnight, but it's got to be a hugely different paradigm from working for the majors back in the '90s to going to a thing where going to a situation where the majors aren't even really the majors anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. There's so much change in the industry; it's crazy. But I want to talk about for a second, like what I'm doing here is I'm just doodling, but it's with the intention of, and this
That
is,
is not shown. There we go.
yeah. Where am I? Okay. Um, yeah, it's just doodling, but that's kind of sort of just Aquaman out of my head from back in the day, because I want to do a print of the Aquaman I worked on, which was when Peter David was writing it, and he actually had a hook and a beard and a whole different outfit.
I love that Aquaman, incidentally.
More of a warrior Aquaman. Um, they thought he was too much of a pussy, so they made him a lot tougher at a certain point. Um, so I want to do uh, a nice piece. I don't know, and sort of just mentally reaching for an idea as we talk, which is, it is what it is. It's always a challenge.
That's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm just kind of taking this drawing as it comes, like. But I think that's how you get really great pieces. Just kind of,
mess around.
Yeah, you play. I mean, that's what it is. You play.
So, is this for yourself, or is this for somebody?
No, this is just. Yeah, this is just a. I just figured I would draw something while I was doing the studio synergy, because the pieces. I kind of have a thing where I don't let my commission work, out in the wild. I don't do work in progress posts or anything like that for any commission work, because it's not my work, right?
Right.
It's work that I am doing, but it's for somebody else. Somebody else owns that. It's somebody else's character. It's somebody else's vision. So I kind of don't like showing that stuff until it's finished. And unfortunately, all the stuff I'm currently working on is commissions and such. So I just figured I'd just do a random piece and kind of see how it shaped up as I was working on it while we did this. So we got a warrior guy. That's
very all right. It seems somebody wants to join us, and they might need a hand. So keep talking about something.
Sure. But yeah, that's like something I actually need to do more of, is just, doodle, dork around, go into a picture without any preconceived idea of what it's going to be until I start putting stylus to screen, just because I think that's one of the best ways to develop as an artist. Just because you kind of accidentally can fall into things that you never would have done before, if that makes sense.
Yes. I'm doing stuff, so.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting to be carrying this whole thing by myself, so you'll have to excuse me.
What's your favorite movie? That always works easy.
Oh, that's a horribly hard question for me because I love so many different movies for so many different reasons.
Pick one.
I'll tell you the one that has been my favorite most recently is Spider-Man: Homecoming. Because I initially loved it just because, hey, that's finally the Peter Parker we needed on screen. Like, it wasn't. It was actually showing him as a hero, learning how to be a hero and learning how to do that well, as opposed to, a 48-year-old man pretending to be in high school. Not that I'm salty at Andrew Garfield or anything, but like the more that I've watched it, the more I've realized that that's a really well constructed movie. It does a lot of work, both as an adaptation of Spider-Man and it just like how the plot threads weave and the way that it sets up that reveal. Anyway, so yeah, that's probably my favorite movie today. Come back to me in a couple of weeks when I see another great movie, and I'll talk about that forever.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I thought it definitely had a lot of things going for it. And after, like Amazing Spider-Man, the movies had some good points, but overall, it seemed like it became a mess with definitely the second movie.
Yeah, I didn't. I actually only saw the second movie, and I wasn't. I actually, the original Amazing Spider-Man was the only Spider-Man anything I haven't seen, because like Spider-Man's been my super, like that's been my favorite superhero since I was tiny, and that was a long ass time ago. But yeah, I saw the sequel and I was just like, this is a mess. Like that is not a well put together movie. What am I doing with this guy's armor now? Okay, let's do this.
It's made out of wood. It's wood armor.
That seems dangerous. That wouldn't be the most ridiculous thing I've dressed a fantasy character up in, though.
Well, like in fantasy, I'm not too much a fantasy guy, but every time I take a look into the arena, and they do some weird things because they have different tribes and armies, and they do like this is the underwater tribe, and this is the airborne tribe, and this is the wooden armored tribe. Yeah.
You are so hung up on this wood armor thing. But no, see, that's what I love about fantasy is, I mean, you can really go weird with it if you want. That's you can push boundaries that you can't for other genres, and I always really appreciated that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like after you created 100 worlds, how do you add to that?
Then you create the 101st world and you make it weird.
Yeah.
That's when you go into that Moebius shit.
Like Doctor Strange is the astral plane crew.
Exactly. That's when when you're, I don't know how to phrase it, when you're I think you can get a lot out of when you're doing fiction and artwork of just taking the restrictions off, and that's how Steve Ditko ended up with his weird alien worlds for Doctor Strange, and man, those are beautiful.
Yeah, it's like I loved the first Doctor Strange movie, but excuse me, it really felt like what was it? Inception 2. You know, it's like the wildest thing you can do is like have him make circles on his hands. You know, it's like it's not too weird. You know, it's like not really Doctor Strange.
I really loved like the fractal backdrops and everything. You know, and they're fighting in the mirror universe, and
yeah, that was pretty cool.
I feel like I do feel like they could have pushed it in some directions, but on the other hand, I mean, they were also making it for an audience that has never heard of a Doctor Strange, so I try and be a little forgiving of that.
Yeah, for me, the funniest thing, um, you know, it's like you know how people like my father did this, and I think I picked it up from him. Like he'll be watching a game show, and he'll like it wasn't so much come up with the answer; it was more like predict the answer before the person on the show did.
Oh yeah.
And he did that with TV shows and movies too. And I could do that. And it's like I'd be hanging out. Me and Lisa would be watching stuff. And okay, he's having problems. All right. Um. Yeah, we watching a TV show or we watching a movie, and I'll always say like, you know, it's usually like the last line that's the most dramatic line or something, and I'll just say it before the character does. But before the most amazing thing to me was before I went to go see Doctor Strange, like that day, I knew I was going to see it that night. I randomly posted on Facebook, "Help! I'm stuck in a time loop."
How did you pull that one off?
And somebody commented something like, you know, alluding to the fact that you know that what happens in the movie, and I was like,
I like how you say that like you didn't just already spoil it.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure most people saw it.
One hopes at this point.
Spoilers. Um, but yeah, so somebody commented to the effect of like they saw the movie and they kind of knew what I was talking about, and meanwhile, I didn't see the movie and I had no idea what his response meant, and you know, I just clicked like or something, and then I watched the movie and I went back home and looked at my post and I was like, oh my god, it's so funny.
What is this power?
What is this power? If only I could use it for good and not evil.
If only.
If only.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. No. Why did I use this guy's base color? Damn it. There we go.
Oh, my friend's having problems. Let's see, me. Okay, I'm not sure how he's having problems. He says he's having problems, but don't know how to help him get in. Oh, I know. All right, just keep talking.
Okay. So, how about them Seahawks? I don't actually, I don't think I don't probably not the topic of conversation that other people can join in on. Yeah, I didn't actually. I kind of figured there would be other people to carry this, so I didn't come in with any topics in mind or anything. So, kind of just winging it here.
Yeah. Yeah, I should be able to get my friend on.
Nice.
Let's see if he responds. Yeah, there's a back doorway. So we have Zach Hawkins. Morning, Zach. Welcome to Studio Suji.
Hey, Zach.
So currently, I'm trying to get a friend of mine into it. Okay.
The adventures of trying to make technology work.
Yeah, it's like like I said, I actually bought this new computer so I wouldn't be, like without being able to get online. But it's not as powerful as my old one. So whenever I open up multiple windows, everything slows down.
Oh god.
So that's what I'm trying to do right now to get him on. So that's why, yeah, things are. But
You're doing a good thing trying to help him this much.
yeah, well, it's like the whole point of me doing these is so I can have new people on as well as old, and let's see if this works. Oh, so somebody asked me about the whole controversy. So let's get into a little controversy here.
Well, which controversy are we talking about?
It's the Mark Waid Zach controversy.
Zach.
Well, it's what is he? Comics? Oh, geez. There's a YouTuber, and he previously
I think I know where you're going with this, but yeah.
He's Comicsgate. He's comics and diversity.
Diversity in comics.
Diversity in comics, yeah.
Yeah.
So my friend asked me about what's your opinion about the Mark Waid Zach thingamajig. Well, my response was, I saw the headlines. I don't know the details. I think the court will figure it out.
Probably the safe answer. I know that my opinions on it are a little more fervent.
Well, okay. One second. Yeah, we'll go back to an old thing. Paula Avalos, Avalos, was the artist I was trying to think of.
Oh, there we go.
And she's a the 100s comic maker. I guess she's done it a couple of times. She's doing it again. And okay, I'm trying to do 100 things.
You started this like, I'm just going to draw some stuff with my friends, and now it's
yeah.
got haywire.
All right. I'll let him know a sentiment invite. If that works, that works. If not, then I'll have to connect with him another time and do it. Not live during a stream. Okay, so yeah. You were saying about Zach and Mark Waid.
Oh, I was just gonna say I certainly have opinions on that, and I think you know my propensity for having opinions. It is. I don't. I don't know a good diplomatic way of saying my opinions on it. So I think I'm probably just going to decline. I will say that I'm kind of rooting for Mark Waid on this, and I don't think he was in the wrong. That's. I don't know. Maybe that's as far as I should go on it.
Damn, we just had 20 viewers and now we have 2. No, I'm kidding.
I knew this would happen.
Oh man, I don't know why my screen's all blurry. I think I'm on automatic. Let's see if I could do something about that without crashing my computer totally.
It was looking pretty good there for a second, and then it's not.
It's like I think it's on autofocus, which is the opposite of what it's doing. But
Auto blur.
Auto blur. Welcome to Auto Blur. Yeah, I'm gonna go into settings, but yeah, I mean, I am too, and I say that because I know Mark Wade and his work more than I know Zach, and I don't exactly know the issue presented. And okay, what if we do this and that? Yeah, screw autofocus. You're not working. Okay. Do I have to save? I guess not. We're good. All right. There you go. That's much better.
Hey, there we go. We actually have definition.
Yes.
This is
see the stuff I'm doing. Yeah, so it's like I know Mark Wade, I know of him and his work. And that's where that stands, and I don't really, it's like I barely have time to deeply read anything I scan on the internet. I'm too busy during my day, so
yeah.
You could take my opinion with a grain of salt. So
Yeah, I spend too much time like looking over this shit, which is not healthy for me. I really should not spend nearly as much time as I do. Because it tends to
it's
put me in
like,
a really bad headspace.
it's what am I trying to say? Like, the quality of time I spend is usually pretty low.
Right.
Like, oh, I check out a picture, I give it a like. I watch a video, I give it a thumbs up. But it's, I only really focus on a few things to where I'm like spending more time on one person's post or one person's um, video or what have you. Um, and yeah, so I know other people are the same way. It's like, if you go watch what they viewed or whatever, you can do that on, I guess, on Facebook. Um, they just like 100 different things in the last 10 minutes. How can they possibly have spent more than a second on each thing?
And see, I think that's probably help. I kind of think that like getting too involved or addicted to social media is really harmful for artists, just because
Yeah.
a lot of us. I mean, I'm doing my stuff on my computer. I know a lot of artists who are traditionally have a computer nearby, just if nothing else for reference and everything, and that I don't know. It's easy to get sucked down that rabbit hole, and every minute that you're not in that rabbit hole is minutes that you're not doing work.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks that what you use to have reference is also like, connected to everything else.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Makes it easier to listen to music while I work, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it is
I,
a thing that it is a thing I have to fight because it's so very easy.
yeah. I wish I could separate um like the internet from, like, yeah, like I use it for music or maybe audiobooks, something to listen to while I work. And I use it for reference. I wish I could separate out all the other stuff so I'm not distracted at times.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, and that's uh, I would love to be able to work in a studio setting because I can focus better if there are other people working around me. It's very. I think it can be really hard to keep focus when it's just yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's my ultimate plan, to have a sort of studio, but even like a further extension of that, like um, a art community in a sense.
Yeah, that
So
would be great.
yeah, when I earn my millions, I'll get right on it.
Well, I was all set to start something like that just as soon as I won that Mega Millions ticket, but somebody in Connecticut stole it from me. So
Oh man,
yeah, it's terrible. It's just a bad
I
situation all around. So
I have a friend in Connecticut. I wonder if it's him.
oh,
Uh,
because most people get the phone calls asking for money as soon as they win the lottery. This poor guy hasn't and is still getting the phone calls.
it's all good.
Yeah. There we go.
So I think our friend's not able to get on.
That's too bad.
So I'll have to walk him through next time. Sorry, I didn't get the math. It's okay. Huh. I sent an invite and he didn't get it, so I don't know why. Only thing I could think of. Check your spam.
I don't know. I'm a terrible computer troubleshooter, so I'm not sure I could help here.
It's okay. I'll work with him offline.
Yeah, it's too bad. Too bad for this though. Could have been nice to have one other person hanging out with us.
Well, if we go long enough, we might have. Well, it's already 11, so if other people don't pop in soon, then I'm guessing we're not going to see anybody else. Let me check one other thing. So I probably mentioned this in a video, but just in case you only watch my studio synergies, I am really excited about the Aquaman movie coming out.
It looks surprisingly good. Aquaman's not a character that I have been all that interested in for the most part, but and I was not huge on the DC extended universe movies so far, but yeah, that movie does look fun. And I'm kind of surprised at how excited I am for it.
Oh, you little fanboy.
I know.
Um, let's see. I guess I didn't get. Okay. Yeah, no real responses about other people coming in anytime soon. But
Cowards.
I did want to say that whatchamacallit? Oh, I heard a possible DC Universe move. To where they could fix the whole movie debacle and be on the freaking right track. And it has to do with the next Wonder Woman movie.
Oh,
And what they're doing Okay, 1 second. Okay. Um, what they're doing is, spoilers for anybody who doesn't want to hear it, but the next Wonder Woman has to do with um, Steve Trevor died in the first movie. It has to do with Wonder Woman bringing back Steve Trevor. And what they're supposedly going to do, what I guess they're kind of absolutely going to do, is
kind of absolutely.
Kind of absolutely. You like my phraseology?
Hey,
Um, they, they're going to Wonder Woman's going to resurrect Steve Trevor somehow, and because of it, create a new sort of timeline, universe, something.
they're gonna flashpoint up through
Yep.
Wonder Woman.
It's Wonder Woman 1984 Flashpoint, and they're gonna go and what do they call it when they refilm, add more film, like film more scenes.
Reshoots.
Yeah, reshoots. They're gonna go and do reshoots on like a third of the film, and that's why it's like the film's gonna be delayed 7 months because the reshoots and restructuring of the story. But by doing that, they create the possibility of, hey, Wonder Woman comes to our time, and hey, it's a different Superman. Hey, it's a different Batman. The actors, disappeared, and, and new ones are there. So they'll fix that sort of thing because Henry Cavill was possibly out, and Ben Affleck was possibly out. And now they can absolutely do that, and they can fix like supposedly there's problems with the Flash movie because there's problems with the Flash character.
That's I don't know how to feel about that.
So they'll essentially keep what works and make new with what wasn't. It's like I liked a lot about Cyborg, but visually, he sucked. So and
I liked a lot about Cyborg, except for the fact that he was terrible.
Well, no, just his costume. I mean, I don't expect the comic book version, but the movie version, I really didn't like it at all. I mean, it's kind of like how I felt about Transformers, until I just got used to it.
I didn't get used to those. I just there's this whole idea of a complicated special effect is more impressive than a less complicated special effect. So they've kind of there's been this trend in the movies, or at least non-Marvel movies. Marvel's been fairly okay about it, but of moving away from simplicity as a character design tool, and I think that's a really huge mistake.
Yeah, and I realize why, reasons why they do it. I mean, so you can create new toys. I mean, redesign, period. You can create new toys.
But the toys don't, you can't get that level of detail on the toys because you're working in plastic instead of CG. So any of the Transformers movie toys, they look like dumbed down versions of the movie characters. It's not serving even that. They have that trailer for the new Bumblebee movie for Transformers, and I've heard. I think the rumor is, and I haven't been following, so I don't know. I think the rumor is that maybe the last of the Michael Bay Transformers universe movies, and I think that's a mistake because holy cow, like those characters are recognizable. Bumblebee actually looks like Bumblebee, and it's a much simpler design. It actually looks right. Soundwave looks like Soundwave, and it's a much simpler design. It looks it's more interesting because there's something you can actually look at and grab onto, and I think that's I get what like you said, there's you can make toys out of more complicated design, gives you more options for merchandise and everything. And there's the whole thing, a more complicated special effect looks more impressive at first glance than a less complicated one, but a simple character design tends to be better than a more complicated, busy one. And it's like after 10 years or whatever, we've finally got one where the Transformers, you can actually tell what's going on with them, and now they might not be doing any more of those. It's like, oh, damn it.
Somebody in the chat actually asked about you.
Oh.
Trip Blindside. Peter, who's the other artist?
I
don't know.
I just showed up. Peter didn't want me here, but I came in anyway.
Tell him who you are.
I am John Grzeski. I am known pretty much everywhere on the internet as Zomberai. I am used to have a webcomic that hopefully is coming back, and I've got some other projects in the works, but mostly I'm doing commissions these days.
So that was, did I say who it was? What's his name? Trip Blindside asked that. So,
hey, Trip.
Thanks, Trip. Thanks for joining us.
You're one of the good ones, Trip. I don't care what Peter says.
Yep. Oh. Where am I getting beeps and bloops?
It wasn't me this time, I swear.
This is what I get. Okay. Next time. Okay, yeah. That was my friend. Just saying. Yeah, I'll make it next time. Yeah, so this is usually it's more than just 2 people. I really just got to get my shit together in a lot of things, but
and I've been on a couple of these. Usually Pete has good artists on, so
yeah. Hey, that's a diss on both of us.
That was just meant to diss me. Damn it!
Your self-loathing is leaking on me.
My self-deprecation ruins everything it touches. Oh yeah, this got weird.
Yeah, that's the fun of it.
I have to imagine the audience like, this dude's an idiot. It's okay, hypothetical audience member. I love you anyway.
Yes. Oh, so yeah, I was like, I really think it is the answer, though, like to all their dreams to like get what is great about what they've done so far and go forward and not make the same mistakes. Like it's potentially like they're making a moment in time where everything they do from now on can be that much better. Like they don't have to scrap the whole thing, because I love Wonder Woman. Aquaman, I really like him. I think the movie looks amazing. So I say yes, stick with him. My only thing would be like get rid of the body tattoos, or at least lessen them, because it's like it just seems like they're too much. A couple of tats would have been fine. Oh, Jeremy! Hey!
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey!
Yay! John's happy. We got somebody else. Oh, Jeremy! Hey!
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey!
Oh, wow.
Yay! John's happy. We got somebody else.
Uh-oh.
Just get my camera set up.
Hey, how you guys doing? Hey! Oh, wow. Yay, John. All right, we're going to make sure to turn off.
I don't know if that's a feedback loop from me because I'm using my phone, so usually it doesn't do anything weird like that, but it might have been like for a second before I joined the call, it was just listening to the call, so that might have been that quick loop.
I don't hear it right now.
Yeah, it's gone now.
We're Mark.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi, guys.
This
It was difficult this time.
Oh, is it Mario?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
Oh, hey. Good. Mario's the person that was turning in.
That was hard.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's do a little introduction. Let's start with Jeremy because he's on my left here. Jeremy, hey, welcome.
Hey, Jeremy Burley. I am a comic artist, writer out in LA. Currently working on a comic called Morning Star. It's Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western.
Nice.
Cool. Go check it out. And we have Mario. Hey, Mario, welcome.
Hi, how are you? I'm Mario Vasconcelos. I'm from Portugal, and I'm doing right now my first comic called Sin Killer. And I've been doing illustrations since 2009, and I can't wait to take this baby out.
So, yeah, Mario does great work. So glad you could join us.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So how's everybody been this morning?
Awake. It's very early. But it worked out that it was very early because I could actually, show up to this. I never make these.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit groggy.
Yeah, you guys could take over. We've been talking for an hour, so
you're ready to hand off the baton.
Yeah.
Yes.
So has it just been sort of studio shop talk, or has there been any scintillating debates about the craft or the industry?
We almost had one, but I dodged it.
That's probably the
best. Just like earlier, like I was mentioning, somebody asked me about my opinion regarding the whole Mark Waid versus diversity in comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
yeah, I guess that's a thing.
I don't have a solid opinion. It's like I don't really know the details. I just know the headlines, so that's where that stands.
Yeah, I'd probably say about the same.
Yeah. So any new things in your world as far as art and comics?
Well, I've had a very humbling week because I usually think that one of my strong points is actually my storytelling. And I was going, I already started inking the latest issue of my book. And there was one panel where a major character dies. And it was, the way it was paced out in the story, it was one panel in a 9-panel grid. And I felt like that really doesn't do that character any justice or service. And I wanted to do something a little bit like a splash page, kind of like kind of as an emotional beat, like just a coda. And in doing that, I had to go back and not necessarily, I didn't have to relay out the entire book, but I ended up adding 4 pages to the issue. And then when I did it the first time, it was real simple. It was just a double page spread at one part of the book and a double page spread at another part of the book. But then I made the bonehead mistake that I placed the first double page spread in the correct position. The second double page spread, the first half of it ended up landing on the right side of the page. And I don't know how I did that, because normally that's the kind of stuff I'm super careful about. And it just wreaked all kinds of havoc. And I ended up going back and re-thumbnailing a bunch of stuff, reworking it, breaking it into, instead of double page spreads, just 4 different splash pages, having to redraw panels on the pages leading in and out of those so things will sync up better. And it's just one of those things where I have to remind myself to not get cocky. And even if I think I'm doing one particular thing well, I'm still learning a lot. And I'm still going to, if I'm not careful, I'll still make amateur bonehead mistakes. And it's just like, oh, it didn't bum me out. But once I already was moving on to the ink, when I move on to the inking, I feel like the book is in the home stretch. Because for me, the inking is the fun part. That's where I'm really just playing. At that point, I've done all the heavy lifting and working out the story mechanics. And I've already used a lot of my reference for doing my layouts. So it's like at that point, I'm just jamming and enjoying drawing. And so having to put all of that on pause and go back and fix some mistakes because I just didn't do my due diligence it's humbling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like even professionals that have been doing it for years, they make mistakes. I mean, sometimes minor, sometimes just big goofs. It's like I remember when I was working on Aquaman, and that was when he had a hook, and Calvary. It's like I'd be talking to him, because we talked a lot, just going over the pages and like what he was looking for, what details of how he wanted me to approach inking on it and stuff, and he'd be penciling while we were talking. And he'd be like, "Damn it, I put it on the wrong arm again." So, I mean, I don't think you'll ever reach a point where you don't make mistakes. It's like,
yeah. Like I've got a character with an eye patch, and I always have to check all the pages to make sure I put the eye patch on the right eye throughout the whole issue.
You know what it is for me? Belt buckles. I have to check my own belt buckle every time to make sure I'm getting the direction that they go in correct.
Yeah, that's another good one. Actually, I don't check that enough, and there's definitely times I've done it where I've let it go going the wrong way. I tried to just remember, but yeah, that's another one. Little details.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that doesn't get noticed, but I'm aware of it every time I notice it.
Well, a lot of times I'll just do like the large brass belt buckle, where it's just a one piece. You can't really tell where it's clamping over.
That's really the easy way to do that.
I mean, it's a lazy cheat, but I
don't think it's lazy. I just think like it's a nice way of getting you out of dumb mistakes like that.
Yeah, I mean, you notice you never see like traditional belt buckles in animation. They always do the one piece, either an oval or just a rectangle covering the whole thing, because they're just like, yeah, we're not getting into that. That's gonna open up a whole can of continuity worms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and who wants to draw the 6 lines instead of just the one?
Exactly. So what about Mario? How about you? What's going on in your creative week?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
What are you up to? What are you working on?
Right now I'm working on my first comic book, The Sin Killer. It's about comic book artist who is killed in one night, and he was brought back to life to avenge his own death. So I'm doing this comic in white charcoal on black paper. That's the first time I'm doing this kind of drawing for this type of project. I've been doing a lot of stuff lately, but nothing like this. And let's see how it goes.
It looks beautiful so far. It's a very different
Thank
look.
you. Yeah, thank you so much. It's kind of Jesus Christ kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
He has a hammer and a gun. And sorry about my English. I'm a little rusty.
It's much better than my Spanish.
So I'm doing this with a friend of mine. I'm not alone on this one. I know that a lot of people are alone on their project, like Jeff, for example. And this time I had lucky. I'm very lucky to have this friend. He's a graphic designer. He knows a lot about comics, and he's very excited about this project too. Let's see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like the character and his choice of weapons. It's like I'm working with teams on my books. So that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing when you can really collaborate with other people and pool your talent.
And someone who knows about the comic industry. That's important too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the few times I did my comic in print, I would have killed to have somebody who had, self-published before. That would have made things a lot easier. I figured it out, but man, there's more goes into it than you think as a first timer.
It is no better way to learn when by making mistakes.
It's true.
Lots of mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. I find that the act of actually making the comics is the biggest teacher of anything. Because even stuff that you don't necessarily do wrong, but just learning to do the process and different ways to tweak your process and finding out what works well for you as opposed to for other people. It's like you can't get that from anything but doing the work.
I do think you learn a lot more from failures than successes, though. Like, I think you can learn stuff from, doing it right out of the park, but just not as much because, the good learning experiences are trying to figure out how to solve a problem. If there were no problems.
We have somebody else in the chat. Hello, guys. I'm new on comics and question this. What's the difference between writing a script for a movie and writing a script for a comic? Anybody want to take that?
I've never written a script for a movie, so I'm not sure I can say, but I will say that comics, I know, there's a lot less accepted format for a comic script than a movie one. There's an industry standard in place for movie scripts, but for comics, there's a lot more. Now we're getting that echo again.
Sorry.
That's all right. I know for comics, like there's a bigger variety of formats you can do, and different writers use different amounts of detail and how much they tell the artist to draw on a panel. And then the other thing is, there's a restriction in movie scripts. You have to worry about time because you have to figure out, okay, this character needs this beat at about this point in the movie. and we're working with about 90 minutes to 2 hours. In comics, you know, you have to worry about space, like how much can I fit in this page. I don't know that, but that's saying as somebody who hasn't ever written a movie script or read a lot of movie scripts, so I think that was a great call.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the movie scripts I've read. There's definite things. I mean, you have to really describe things that are happening and as they happen, and who's saying what, and where are they standing, and sort of all the details that you see visually later in the movie. With a comic, you can really like do a sort of Stan Lee thing and say, here's 4 pages of action. It's the good guy fighting the bad guy. Make it interesting.
I think you get a lot of mileage out of doing that too. Like, just because one thing I think a lot of comics writers fall into, even really established ones, is they don't trust their artists. Yeah, they don't.
Right.
They want to put words in and describe stuff, and they want dialogue to carry the story. But it's like you've got you've got a medium where you can tell a story with no words at all. And I think that's a trap that a lot of writers fall into, that they don't always have to.
I have heard that a lot, where there isn't writing the artist. Like, it's almost like, they don't have any idea who the artist is or will be, so that they're giving them a full script that's so tight that there's no room for interpretation.
I agree with everything that you guys said, particularly the fact that formats are so diverse in terms of comic book script writing. Like when a writer knows who the artist is going to be, it's almost like they're writing a letter to a friend, and they'll put jokes in there. They describe stuff in ways that they've discussed things. That's another thing, is that a lot of times, if they have a good working relationship, the writer will talk with the artist beforehand about what they're going to write, asking them for input. If there's certain things you want to draw, don't want to draw, things you want to avoid, types of things that, and so there can be a lot more shorthand. I think it's worthwhile to look at, I think it's called Comic Book Script Database. It's a website that's up, and I want to say that it was put up by one of the guys from Comics Experience, but it's just a lot of comic book writers that have donated scripts from their various projects, so that you can look at that and read how a lot of different writers, how they write their scripts, depending on what some people that are plot heavy and leaving a lot of, detail and dialogue till afterwards versus, full script, and kind of comparing that with screenwriting, because screenwriting, the fact that it has a standard format, even, they're both visual mediums. Screenplays are a good starting point if you've never written a comic script, because there is a standard format. And then starting with that, and then kind of going off and saying, well, how do I tweak this? Am I going to let my descriptions be longer because I have more to explain, or I have to actually set up how this page relates to a page, like, to a scene 12 pages later? And you can put in all those asides and insets, and maybe you need to put in a piece of visual reference, for the artist. Like, this is the building that we want to use in this. That's the kind of thing. If you want specific things, it's good to be able to provide that for the artist you're working with.
Agreed.
That's actually a really good point too. There, if you're working with an artist and are scripting for an artist, it is. I'm sure there are some artists who like being surprised by writing the script and everything. For myself, I don't. If a writer wants some particular detail because it's going to pay off later, For me, it's a job. I want to be able to do the job well, and I want to know all of the pertinent information. I don't want to be surprised by the end of it. When if I get to page 20 and it's like, and then the villain reveals himself to be the main character's brother, I don't want to be like, well, that's great. That's going to be a great surprise, but I wish I could have set this up.
Yeah, it's like, you can tell the difference between a great comic book writer and a poor one by, if the weather is a critical factor in the story, it might be important to mention it. Like it's snowing in this scene.
Page 15, the rain falls off of the hero's face. Wait, it's raining?
I mean, I do believe that it's possible for a comic book writer to write a script for his artist that still has the same level of surprise that the reader would have in it and has twists and turns. But in order to do that, it's dependent on the particular type of story, because it may not work with every story, and there will be seeds that need to be planted. It may not work with every artist. So I think that's something that's better off if a experienced writer is doing that, and they can evaluate whether that's something that they want their artist to have the experience of not knowing certain things, so that they'll be surprised. And then knowing that they can set the script up such that their artist will still deliver the type of things that they would hope and expect. Not that they're intentionally hiding something, because it's supposed to be a collaboration, but that they'll get to the end and go, oh, hey, I see what you did there. That's clever. That's more of what you want. You don't want the artist, like you said, to be getting to the end of a script, but wait, what the hell? What is this? Why didn't you tell me? You would prefer a pleasant surprise as opposed to a negative one. So I do believe it's possible, but that's something that I think I haven't done that. I haven't worked from any work from a writer who has done that, but I think that's something that's more like it takes an experienced hand to pull off.
Yeah, I think it's possible, but I guess my thing is, I'd be worried about just being too clever for my own good. I as a writer, maybe that's just me, because if I guess I'd rather be safe than sorry in that regard. But yeah, I do think it's probably possible, particularly like you said, for an experienced writer who has been around the block many times.
I mean, again, when I say it only as a caveat. I think it's possible. I don't think it's best practices.
Sure.
I probably wouldn't try it. I think it's something more like, let's say you're like Kirkman and Charlie Adlard working on The Walking Dead. You've been working together on a long run. That's someplace where you know what the person predicts, and you might put something in to throw them. Where, if you guys know from week to week, you're trying to make it interesting and play with each other a little bit, and make the creative process more playful, to keep the magic alive, to keep it, keep dating each other as creative partners. That's a situation where I could see that working well.
And that actually, now that you mentioned that could be an interesting thing. Like, that could be a good way of gauging whether the audience is going to find it. If you're trying to keep things fresh for the audience, and you've been working with a particular artist for a million issues, that could be a good way of doing it. Mm-hmm. I guess that hadn't occurred to me.
I mean, that's why I like the writer artist team that has been together for a long time. You get a certain flow to their stories after a while that you don't get, with a new team. It's like, it's like a first date with the new writer or new artist, and they might do great work on their first issue, but it's usually the team that's been together a while that has that sort of communication built up and shorthand that the work really truly starts flowing.
Yeah, some of the best runs ever didn't get really great until really late in the run, and the writer and artist started clicking like that.
I mean, you look at like Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil is just like one example. John Byrne, Cliff Claremont.
Yeah, I've got a contemporary example I actually just read. Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, their criminal series.
Oh yeah.
I've only read, I think, 1 or 2 criminal graphic novels, but I've read most of Kill or Be Killed and a little bit of Fatale. I really love their collaboration. Like, it's one of those where it is seamless. You really can't tell where the writer ends and the artist begins. They just released a criminal hardcover novella, so it's just like kind of a one shot, but it's a kind of a longer story. And I just got it because I just hadn't read any criminal in a while. And even though I only know, like, I feel like people who have been reading the series consistently would pick up a lot more of the subtle things. I could already tell that they were referencing characters from the very, very first volume that I read. And it was just like master storytelling. It was one of those things where the dialogue is so good, the pacing is so good, the compositions are so good. And Sean Phillips makes things that in my mind would be very structurally difficult. He makes them look seamless. Like, you don't think about the storytelling at all. You just read it. But the amount of craft it takes to make you not think about the storytelling is just amazing. And it's a beautiful book.
It's funny because I don't know if a lot of people remember, but Ed Brubaker used to write Catwoman.
That's right.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, and my brother was the inker on the book, so I had insight to what was going on, and I don't think he ever really got a good handle on the character. It's difficult to write villains as the main character anyway. Like, I would say comic book villains, I mean, he does his whole new stuff is all like bad guys, right? Like focused on, but yeah, he just wasn't getting the character, and it just it showed. And no matter how much I wanted to love the book, because I think that was Paul Glacy drawing it, if I'm not mistaken. It's been such a long time. It just wasn't clicking, and I mean that's the thing with it's like, just because you're a great writer, and even though the book wasn't so hot, I still knew he was a great writer. He just didn't find his niche. It's like it's difficult to do some characters in some books for a particular writer or whatever. So I mean that's why, like if you look at Marvel or DC, it's like you could say, oh, okay, my favorite writer is X. Let's put him on X-Men. And meanwhile, X writes awesome Western adventures, but has no clue about mutants.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that. I mean, the X-Men are hard to write, but your point is taken that not every writer is perfect for every book. Just like not every artist is perfect for every book. I mean, I don't think I could draw the X-Men. I love the X-Men. Those were like my main characters when I first got into comics. I do not think that I am an X-Men artist.
If they'll hire me, I'll be an X-Men artist. I'm very
and that's the That's the day the X-Men get canceled, right? No.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I think that the X-Men were great in the 80s, early 70s and 80s, and after 90s, I believe the quality of the stories just fell off.
Yeah. Yeah. They had their heyday, and I mean they're still highly popular. But it's like I look at interest at X-Men books coming out, and they got X-Men Blue, and they got the new Uncanny X-Men team, and it's like I don't know some of these characters, and everybody's got awful costumes, and I don't know. They ruined freaking Beast. They shaved his head or something.
You say Beast?
Yeah, they shaved his head. He doesn't have that like Wolverine haircut anymore.
I mean, lots of guys shave their heads when they get older.
I mean, I
Yeah,
like them when they got
How is like Peter Parker timeless for 40 years, and other characters like they have to age like fast. I don't know, like from year to year.
I'm just amused at the idea of a dude. I have no idea if that's like why he's bald now or anything, if he like took it upon himself or if he's mutated further or something. I'm just really amused by the idea of a dude covered in blue fur is like, oh my god, I'm balding. I'm shaving this.
That would be weird. I mean, I haven't stayed up on it. I got to go look at a picture of that because I mean, how do you have a big blue fur guy with a shaved head?
Yeah, it's just all blue now. He doesn't have like a noticeable hairstyle. It's very unusual.
That's weird.
I guess there's
like
no reason for Hank McCoy to have like a Wolverine haircut because I mean Hank McCoy is just a regular dude. But it is weird after having the weird hair for like 30 years to now just be give the impression of baldness. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't love this sort of secondary mutation when he looked more cat-like, but I love that in comparison to what he looks like now. So
Personally,
it is what it is.
I felt like the secondary mutation made him look more like an animal, which if he's called the Beast, I was like, this makes more sense than his previous incarnation.
Yeah, I actually liked that look for him a lot. I get where it's probably not everybody's tastes. I thought it worked for the character a lot though.
Uh-oh.
The bat signal?
That doesn't sound good.
So I'm gonna I mentioned this early in the show. I'm gonna be probably just walking around like the Louisville, Kentucky SuperCon coming up the week after Thanksgiving. Does anybody have any conventions or signings coming up?
I got a Saturday ticket for Emerald City Comic Con, but it's just an attendee, not as a tabler. I don't know. I've been out of the con game for long enough that I don't even know how I would get back in it.
When's that happen?
You're gonna make me look it up now, aren't you?
I'm curious. That's why. Not that I'll be going, but eventually I do want to get there. It seems like an awesome convention.
Let's see, March 14th to 17th.
Okay. Maybe I can show up at that point because I'll be rich as opposed to broke, like I am today.
We can hope.
We can hope.
I hope that you're rich enough that you can table at Emerald City Comic Con and that I can borrow money off of you.
Well, I'd love to go to conventions. I mean, it's like I'll be going to the SuperCon in Louisville, and I'll be signing some books and probably networking and meeting up with some fans. Like somebody's going. I said, you could text me. Somebody asked, how can I meet up with you? Just text me, on Messenger, and I'll bring my Kindle so I can see if anything pops up. But yeah, I mean, I would love just to go, and I'm sure like I'll sign comics on somebody else's table.
Just kick Mike McCone out of his chair. This is my table now.
Come on, Neil Adams. You don't need to say. You already got paid. Let me sign some Aquaman trades.
It's funny. After this past convention season, I have been thinking about pulling back on exhibiting, tabling at conventions really hard. Because the year before, I usually used to do about 6 shows a year. And the year before last year, I had about half of my shows really underperformed. So I said, all right, well, why don't I just cut it back to the shows that are profitable for me? So I cut it back to just the 3 shows that were profitable the previous year. And then those 3 shows, 2 out of those 3 underperformed. And I was just thinking about the fact that maybe in terms of people actually buying indie comics, a lot of people that are going to conventions really are just there for the spectacle. Maybe they're not just there for cosplay or for autographs from TV stars, but they're more like a family that's out to enjoy a comics related event. They're not necessarily out to buy a bunch of comics. And I started realizing, well, where is the place that people are going for buying a lot of new comics? And that's when I started looking into Kickstarter. I'm thinking maybe it's just the fact that the people that are out supporting indie comics are not the same group of people that are at conventions. So,
have you ever heard of One Fantastic Week?
Not only have I heard of them, I went to the workshop last year.
Oh, okay.
My only regret about going last year is that David Peterson is one of the teachers there this year, and I would love to have gone just to spend time with him and just talk to him about process and business and working the 2 out. But overall, I got a lot of great feedback from the workshop, and I love the show. So,
what is One Fantastic Week?
One Fantastic Week is 2 guys, illustrators, who they're illustrators, painters, who do a weekly podcast, a weekly YouTube show. A lot of times they're interviewing top illustrators, painters, and people in the industry. Not every week. Sometimes they're just talking about what they're up to, or whatnot. But it's a fantastic show if you're an illustrator, painter, even a comic maker, because they're more geared towards business and in the sense of actually making a living out of which we do. And I'm surprised to hear you say that of them, Jeremy, and not like want to do more conventions or like maybe do a Kickstarter, because they're always talking about Kickstarters, they're always talking about conventions, they're always talking about selling prints and lots of things.
Well, one of the big takeaways that I've gotten is that I think that conventions can be a great living for illustrators and independent artists. If you're doing prints, if you're selling original art, is probably the best way to make good money at a convention. Whether it's doing commissions, whether it's doing a bunch of paintings or illustrations and bringing them to a show to sell, building an audience, building a fan base. Like, you might not sell a ton off the bat, but if you do good work, if you show up consistently and you actually engage with people, get them on your mailing list, they may not buy from you that year, but then the next year they come back, or they will maybe email you like a few months later and be, hey, I can't get this painting out of my mind that I saw at your convention. Is it still for sale? And you can build a living as an artist making your own work with, not working for anyone else. The challenge is that comic books, as we all know, is the most labor-intensive form of artwork.
Yes.
And whether you're working by yourself or whether you're working with a team, the amount of time it takes. I mean, for me, my goal has always been to get up to publishing quarterly. Thus far, since I've been self-publishing, the best I've done is 2 issues a year. And I mean, that's working around a day job. If I were working full-time, I might be able to get up to quarterly. Who knows? I might be able to get up to bi-monthly. But the point being is that what makes it possible to make a living at conventions, from what I've seen, is having tiers, having your entry-level $5, $10 item, having a $20 item, then having like $50 and higher like premium items. And the thing about it is, even comic artists, like, let's say that you've got a box set of your books that you're selling for like $30 or $50. Usually the high-end items that an artist is going to sell at Artist Alley, or if they've got their own booth, the highest end items, if you've got like a package of all your stuff, they're probably going to top out around $100. That still is going to be something where you might be profitable and you might do well at a show. And then let's say that you're selling originals for 100, 200, experienced or established creators may be getting like 500 and up for originals, but that's not going to be the same as somebody who is selling just for a print. If they're selling a print for 20 to a lot of the people in the One Fantastic Week circle are selling their prints for like a 18 by 24, like a 18 by 24, a 12 by 18 print for like $40, $20 to $40.
Yeah.
So $20 to $40 for just one sale, compared to a $5 comic that took you 2 to 3 months to complete.
Yeah.
The economics of the amount of time it takes to complete a comic compared to the time it takes to complete a single image that you're going to sell is way off balance. So the guys in One Fantastic Week are very right about supporting indie creators and doing your own work. But comic books in particular have a very difficult challenge in that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking, well, on one hand, if I just want to make a living as an artist, then maybe I should move away from comics. Problem is, I love me some comics.
Eternal struggle.
I can't get that monkey off my back. That monkey, I got that Comic Jones, man. Right even now, I'm scratching, man. It's in me, man. Them comics, they're crawling around my arms. They're up on me, man. So what I've been thinking about, after I finish the series that I'm on, I'm thinking about doing my next comic book series as a webcomic and really focus on just producing the work. I'm not going to stop doing conventions altogether, and I'll still publish single issues, but I think I might do a Kickstarter for each single issue.
Right.
And then just whatever I have left over from that is what I'll have at conventions. And mind you, this isn't set in stone. I'm just talking out loud here. But
Yeah.
and then just when I get enough issues to do a trade of each volume, just have those, maybe using a print on demand service and having it so people can order it. And my main thinking is just the fact that what I feel holds me back is not having a body of work, not having like 5 to 10 graphic novels. So if somebody buys one and they like it, and they're like, oh, well, let me come back and do this, get this book. Let me come back and get that book. Let me come back and get this. So that if it takes me, 2 years to finish another graphic novel, there's enough money coming in from people buying my backlist that it turns into just ongoing revenue. And then the boost I get is just every time I publish something new. So that's sort of like my long-term goal in that. And that doesn't mean that I can't do that and do conventions. But when I looked at a lot of Kickstarters for comics, even the small Kickstarters that get funded, they're maybe selling 100, like the Make 100 thing. You have people selling maybe 100 comics or maybe 300. That's a small comics Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I rarely sell more than 100 comics at any convention. So if I could stay home, do a webcomic, run a Kickstarter, and make what I would sell at any convention, and just do that, do the Kickstarter, fulfill it, and once it's all fulfilled, hopefully I have the next issue done, and then run the next Kickstarter. So I'm going to be running 2 Kickstarters a year, and I'm selling what I would make at conventions. That might be a way to go. I'm sure once the rubber hits the road and I actually try it, I'll find all sorts of problems with that route too. But I mean, there's always challenges, and I'm not going to know what they are until I try. And then I have to see whether my ways around those challenges are things that I can do or implement in an easy way. I've been going back and listening to a lot of Tyler James' Comics Launch podcast.
Right.
Because I remember when he first launched the podcast, when it was brand new, and I had already heard of Comics Tribe, and I'd read a lot of their articles, and I thought it was a very helpful resource. I thought it was interesting. But the one thing I heard from everyone who ran a Kickstarter is how much work they are. And I said, well, it takes me so much work to run a comic, to make a comic as it is. I don't have time to have another job on top of what is already my second job. So I just never started listening to it. But after this past year of having my convention sales be down a couple years in a row, I thought, all right, I need to go back and listen to all of the episodes in this podcast and really get a handle on all the different ins and outs of Kickstarter, and plus how Kickstarter has changed since he first launched that show. So, because the platform has grown and changed quite a bit over the years. And, taking a few different, I already purchased one comics course on Kickstarters, or one course on Kickstarters in general, but I want to purchase his and run through all of those and just sort of, I want to do a lot of research before I launch my first one. Not because I'm trying to make $1 million Kickstarter, but because I want to try and make the process as seamless as possible. Because it's still true that I don't have as much bandwidth, and I want to spend most of my time writing and drawing as opposed to making another job for myself. So hopefully that's what the research will do, is make it so that I can run a Kickstarter campaign, a humble one, but not have it take over my life and make it something where I just have to stop working on comics for 3 months because I'm trying to run and then fulfill a campaign. So I want to look at all the different options, look at, how much is it worth having the company fulfill a Kickstarter for me, and how I could price my books at a way that will allow me to still make a profit while having someone else do that. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns in terms of what I need to learn in order to do it. But, it's just like, I didn't know how to exhibit at a convention, so I started exhibiting, and I made some good moves and some bad moves, and made money on some, lost money on others. And I imagine Kickstarter is going to be the same way, but at least I can minimize it because there's so much information out there that people who have done them successfully are providing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like, I've done conventions in the past with no real plan. I sort of like, I have original art for sale. I have a couple of crappy prints for sale. I have, I do sketches. Hey, you want a sketch? But my early days of doing conventions were the early days of conventions. and you know, it has been a long time since I've really gone on any sort of regular basis. But knowing that, like, you know, I plan to sort of build a brand of my own in a small publishing company of my own, it's like, well, I only have to get really serious about conventions, even if I don't want to make it a full-time thing. I at least have to do it right for the benefit of all the other people working for me. um, so I definitely will do a lot more research and get a lot more serious about it. And I do also plan to do like the Kickstarter route. I mean, I'm currently going to Indiegogo with my first issue of Retro, but I'm not going to exclude Kickstarter. I'll just have to wait for the right project to do it there or the right time. Um, you know, and one of the main reasons I want to go Indiegogo is because it has more to do with the horror stories I've heard at Kickstarter. You know, with Indiegogo, people pay right off the bat. Um, with Kickstarter, it's like people could pull out at any time, and I was like, I want a little more of a guarantee that you know what shows up on the screen is what's going to happen. Like, you know, if 40 people opt in and pay for pledges, then that's pretty much guaranteed.
All right, sorry to cut in, guys, but I actually have to bail here. But
Woof.
Peter, thank you very much for having me on. Hey, I was first in. I can be first out.
That's true, man. Great pleasure to have you on again. It's been a while, buddy.
It's been too long. We'll do this
You
again.
wanna say a website or anything?
Yeah, I'm Zomburai, Zomburai, on pretty much any platform that I'm on. That's my handle on Twitter. You can find my Illustrator page on Facebook under that name. I'm on Tumblr. So yeah, if anybody watching this wants to drop me a line or say hi or send me a commission my way,
Yep.
or just give me money for literally no reason, you can find me there.
Buy John some coffee.
I would like a coffee. But, all right, thanks, guys.
All right, take it easy.
Talk to you, John. Take care.
Nice to see you again, Jeremy. Been a while.
You know, on the Indiegogo thing, I am not anti Indiegogo.
Right.
However, one point has been brought up to me by other people in the whole Kickstarter versus Indiegogo debate, which I do think is worth mentioning, which is that a lot of people say the pro of Indiegogo is that even if your campaign doesn't reach its goal, you still get the money. And I've heard some people, particularly on the Comic Lab podcast, they harp on this a lot, which is that that's a bad thing. And the reason why they say it's a bad thing is because let's say that you're supposed to produce like X number of books and your campaign only partially funds, you get that money on Indiegogo. Now you don't have all of the financial resources to accomplish the goal, but you're still on the hook for the people that have ordered it. So now you're trying to make something without having enough money to cover all of your shipping costs, printing costs, fulfillment costs. And that's kind of a problem, to be on the hook for something that some people want it, but you're on the hook for it. You don't have all the resources to fulfill it now.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely, like, I thought of that the first time I saw Indiegogo and avoided even thinking about Indiegogo like the plague for years and years. But I mean, you could select to do it in that way, or you could select to do it. It's like all in or whatever the terminology is. Um, that if you don't get totally funded, then it's not happening or whatever. But it's like whatever I Kickstarter or whatever I Indiegogo, it's going to be for a comic, and it's not going to be like I need $60,000 to, it'll be whatever, it'll be a couple of thousand, something I could afford, even if I don't get a dime.
Well, that's reasonable. That's a smart way to go into it. As long as you know that going in, that that's at least playing it smart.
Yeah, it's not like I'm designing a new car and need funding. What about you, Mario? Are you going to crowdfund your comic or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I've been talking with my friend Ricardo Ferreira. He's been making some research, and we are thinking about doing it next year, maybe in March, something like that. And yeah, we're going to make an Indigo campaign somehow. Let's see how it works.
Yeah.
Let's see,
Oh,
because I have a full-time job, and it's been a little difficult to make the comic and work very hard.
yeah. I've been there. It's a challenge to work on comics and have a full-time job and try to have a life outside of that.
Yeah, very difficult. Yeah, and I've got this problem with my hands. Sometimes I can draw for weeks because I've been working on a factory for years, and right now I have pain in my hands, and it's going to be very difficult this weekend to finish my page. But let's see how it works next week. I hope to be better and to make another page. This is the first one, and I'm hope to finish something about 10 pages in the next 10 weeks. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that. That's that is your hands are like your tool, and if they give you trouble, then that's definitely a big issue. Um, I know like Mike Emirates in the D100s group, had to stop um, working on his comic because he had so many issues. Um, and I would actually suggest that you message him directly, because I know he had a few solutions to his hand problem come his way because he put the word out that there's things you can do to alleviate pain.
Yeah, some
Um,
exercises. Yes, I do that. A few exercises by
yeah,
in the morning before I start working.
yeah, that might prove helpful.
I know I had to train myself to both grip my pencil less firmly and also to not press down so hard because I was starting to develop, like, this was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. I was starting to develop pain in my hands and in my joints. And I just realized it was because I had that death grip on the pencil, and just forcing myself to let up and loosen up a little bit, like that alone just made the tendons in my arm not feel as tense. I mean, I'm sure that's not as comprehensive as actually physical exercises from a therapist and learning about other lifestyle changes you can do to improve, but that's probably a good tip for anybody working with their hands a lot, is that if they're constantly clenching stuff, you're going to develop hand problems over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked on a comic years and years ago, small independent comic, and the artist developed carpal tunnel, and she was awesome, um, awesome artist. And I was like so sad to hear that she wouldn't be penciling the book we were working on anymore. But she turned up years later, and she was working for DC, penciling that small little book, Why the Last Man.
Oh,
Nice.
As Pia Guerrera. So she went on to have an excellent career.
I'm glad she didn't let it stop her.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I wonder whatever happened with the movie that they were supposedly working on.
Well, we still haven't seen a Sandman movie.
Uh, yeah,
Of course, I think that's a bad idea. I mean, the fact of the matter is that they finally figured out to make Watchmen a TV series. You know, because that book needs to be told over time. You would think that a 70 issue plus series, they might say, maybe this would work better as a TV series than as opposed to a film. Even if, because I mean, there's no guarantees you're going to get those sequels, and unless you pace it properly, it's hard to make a like if you were to take the first volume of Sandman,
right.
the first trade, I don't think that would make a very good movie. And if you were to even say Why the Last Man, I've only read up through volume 4. I still need to finish it, but I don't think the first volume would be a very satisfying movie experience. I think those kind of things work better in TV.
Yeah, I mean, TV or like everybody's coming out with their own streaming service now. That would be perfect for that sort of thing. Yeah, because the format, it is serial. It is like, some stories you can cut into a 2-hour movie, but a lot of them, to really flesh out and do them justice, would make a really good ongoing series. The objective always is like, like, I'm sure if the series is popular and the series does really well in the ratings, makes money, yada yada, then it's a question of, really putting the brakes on it at some point and saying stop, stop letting it be a money maker because the story is over and you're just, killing it now.
Like the X-Men. The timeline sucks. Timeline sucks.
Yeah.
Well, even in the comics, the timeline is wonky. So, I mean, how can you make the movie? I'm not going to hold the movies accountable based on how weird the timeline in the comics have gotten.
Yeah, it's with the X-Men, it's more like, here's a bunch of popular characters, let's find a story for them. Although they seem to be trying to copy, I mean, thus far, trying to copy some of the more popular comic book stories to a certain extent. But, we'll see what happens when it gets in Marvel's hands.
And now we have the Dark Phoenix coming out, and I think it's gonna flop. I think it's gonna flop this one too.
Yeah, it's like, well, we'll see if they actually deliver and it actually does come out. There's some question to that, but yeah, it's like whatever. Even if it's an awesome movie, it's winding up in Marvel's hands, and they're probably just going to erase everything that's been done thus far and start anew if they choose to do like sort of X-Men characters. They got so many other plans going on, so who knows? I mean, I'm kind of starting to get worried that everything entertainment wise across the board is becoming, owned by Disney. So
It's going to become the big two of movies between Warner Brothers and Disney.
well, it's like, there's Disney, and Disney owns Pixar, and Disney owns Marvel, and Disney owns, it's like they're really like the top dog as far as movies right now, because everything is made and distributed by them. Everything that's really popular and franchisee and whatnot. I don't think there's a break in their schedule where they don't have movies coming out.
Well, I'm not concerned about them having an undue amount of power in terms of like the market share they hold, only because what I'm concerned about is simply whether they make good stories or not. And if they don't make good stories, then those properties those movies won't perform at the box office. If the properties don't perform at the box office, then they'll either stop making the movies or they'll sell off the rights to certain properties. Now, I can't see them breaking up Marvel properties, but if a bunch of Pixar movies underperformed, I mean, that I can't imagine that happening, but they would be like, you know what? Maybe we're going to sell off Pixar as their own separate studio and sell it to somebody else. Or it would go spin off and become its own independent studio again. I could see them doing that with something like let's say the Star Wars just 4 films in a row bombed. And I mean, we know how awesome Star Wars is. People would go see it even if they weren't great movies. But let's say that happened. They might look at saying, all right, let's sell these assets. So it really comes down to, are the movies any good?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you ask a lot of Star Wars fans nowadays, they'll probably disagree. Like, the original 3 were great. Everything they've done since then has been more downhill. But yeah, I mean, I'm not so much worried as in, it's like I'm an artist and I'm a comic maker, and I have a whole line of my own creations I want to get out there and work with a lot of other people. What Disney does or doesn't do really has no great effect on me, other than, they do a lot of entertainment that I watch. So, it's like, I'm not now, or probably will never be, a competing studio with them. Or even
Hey, Miller World got bought by, was it Netflix or Amazon?
Netflix. Yeah.
So, and I don't know when their projects are going to start coming out.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. I haven't heard exactly anything, except, as far as exact details yet. But uh, I am excited for the deal to happen. I hope we do actually see something come from it, and it not be just like, Netflix has the money and it just bought a pile of properties that will do nothing with. Well, I don't know.
No, I feel the same way. I hope the good comes of it, and it's not just IP grab for IP grab's sake.
Yeah. Because Marvel personally has done that in the past. Where where was it? They bought out Malibu Comics. Was it Malibu Comics? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was solely for the purpose to get computer coloring. That was in the very early days of computer coloring. So they used the characters, I think, for a year, had no success because they didn't know how to do anything with them, and then just they used the computer coloring and buried the characters.
It seems like there would have to be a way to buy the computer coloring without buying the studio. Or just contract it out to them.
I don't know the details to it. I mean, that's, maybe I'm just repeating more of the rumor than the actual event. But it certainly seemed to go along with what happened. Yeah, I'm sure there is, but I mean, like when you're big business and you're competitive, what seems like the best move at times is like destroy your competition or just buy them out, and
yeah, I mean, I'd heard a lot of the same stuff that you're talking about, so it makes sense to me. I mean, it makes sense that that's what happened. It does not make sense as to why that's the route they would go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's other possible ways it could have went down. Where people already working on the books could have like just kept going and kept working on them, and the colorists would have made more money working for both companies, but I guess they wanted the exclusive. And man, computer coloring back in the beginning was a lot of it was awful.
Yeah, super garish and everything looks like plastic.
I hated, like, every time I saw metal, it was like the cheap ass metal effect. That was like, it was 2D metal effect, just like cookie cuttered into anything that was metal, and it was hilariously bad.
No contouring to the form and looking like it's actually part of an object.
It was just, here's a metal shine. I mean, I guess there's a kind of charm to it, but it was laughably bad.
Well, I think everyone's guilty of that the first time they get Photoshop. It's just like, oh, let me use this filter. Let me use that filter. Let me use this filter. You're just running through everything. Everything's got a Gaussian blurred background and just the main characters in focus. You're trying all the, motion blur, all of that. You're like, I got to use it all. And then you slowly learn a little bit of taste and discretion, and you're like, just a drop, just a pinch here, just a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, subtlety is everything.
Well, I know that I was one of the last ones in, but I actually have got to sign off because I have a time-sensitive errand that I have to run. But I wanted to make sure I at least got in here for a little while because I've missed the last couple of synergies.
Well, I guess I've been going a long time, so I guess we'll end it as a group here. So I'll ask you, Jeremy, again. Where can people find you?
You can find me at jeremy.net, and I recently launched a Patreon. So it's patreon.com/Jeremy. It's GERIMI. And I've got some Patreon exclusive posts that I put up. I recently put up a book tour of my reference art books, some behind the scenes on my comics, and I'll be posting more of my already published comics in the coming months just on there to read if you're a Patreon subscriber.
Very, very cool. And hey, Mario, thank you so much for making it in here. I know we had a little trouble getting in. Where can people find you?
Well, people can find me on Facebook, Mario Vasconcelos Drawings, and I think I'm going to start this week making videos on YouTube. Marv Artworks. Let's see how it works.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'll make sure to get you your link and put it in the video description. And of course, anybody watching this video knows me. I'm Peter Palmiotti, and I'm Peter Palmiotti everywhere online. and yeah, I try to do these weekly. Sometimes I do them randomly. I was just sketching today, I guess. Here's some stuff. But yeah, I should be back in a week, and hopefully we can get more people in these hangouts like the old days, because these are always much fun to do. And thanks for watching, everybody. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. I'm also on Patreon, patreon.com/Peter Palmieri if you want to support everything I do. And that's it. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks a lot,
Bye.
guys. Bye bye.
Thanks for having us, Peter.
Thank you.